Have you ever really thought about how wild these large language models are? Like ChatGPT or Claude.
Yeah.
You ask them something, and sometimes it's really complex, and they come back with something that, like, more often than not, actually makes sense.
Right.
For a long time, it's kind of felt like we're looking into this black box.
Yeah.
We see what goes in, we see what comes out. But the inner workings have kind of been a mystery,
Yeah.
even to the experts that build them.
Mm-hmm.
And that is actually what we're going to deep dive into today. We're looking at some really interesting research from Anthropic that's going to help us understand what's going on inside that black box.
Right.
Why this is so relevant for you is that these LLMs, they're not just some futuristic concept anymore.
Right.
You know, our source material talks about how they're really becoming more and more a part of our lives every day.
Oh,
Whether it's AI helping doctors with diagnoses, or it's helping students with their homework, even just like customer service interactions. Like this whole, I guess what they're calling it, the generative AI movement is
Yeah.
really becoming much more present.
Well, I mean, that's what's so fascinating about it, right? It's like as these things become more and more integrated into like our daily routines and like the decisions that we make,
Right.
it's like that initial kind of, oh, wow, this is magic. It has to kind of evolve into, okay, how do I trust this?
Right.
If I'm going to rely on it, how do I know?
Exactly right. Trust, safety, using them ethically, it all comes back to understanding what's happening inside that black box, right?
Yeah.
And so that is what makes this research so interesting.
Yeah.
This paper from Anthropic, or Source, is saying that it offers some really compelling insights into the how and the why behind LLM outputs.
Yeah.
So this isn't just like, oh, we took one step forward. The source is saying this is like a really pivotal moment
Sure.
in this whole generative AI movement, offering a chance to really understand and trust these systems more.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we're finally moving beyond just seeing like, okay, here's the input, here's the output.
Right.
We're actually starting to understand the mechanism,
Right.
and that is super powerful.
So let's dive into it.
Okay.
So, you know, you ask an LLM a question, you might picture it, I don't know, just like frantically searching through tons and tons of data.
Yeah.
But the reality, it seems, is, I don't know, I guess a bit more elegant and maybe surprising. And like a key to understanding this is drawing a parallel to how biological organisms function.
Right. And this is like what's so cool about what the researchers are proposing here.
Right.
They're basically saying, look at our own bodies.
Yeah.
Right. Think about, as the source says, we're made up of all these specialized cells,
Right.
each doing a particular task, but working together in this really beautiful, coordinated way.
Yeah.
And the researchers at Anthropic are saying, you know what? We're starting to see that LLMs actually work in a similar way.
Oh.
That there are different parts of the model that are specialized for handling different aspects of language.
So instead of this big mysterious blob, it's almost like we're seeing these components that are contributing to the final result.
Right.
And you know how, like in biology, we have tools like microscopes to examine those cells?
Yeah.
Well, Anthropic has kind of developed the equivalent for AI.
Uh-huh.
They call them attribution graphs.
Yeah. The source refers to these attribution graphs as kind of like a microscope into AI,
Right.
which is, I think, a pretty great analogy.
Yeah.
So an attribution graph basically lets you see the different steps
Yeah.
that the model takes as it's going from your question to its answer.
Right.
All the little operations that are happening along the way.
Right. So it's almost like, I don't know, like following the steps in a recipe.
Yeah.
You know how it's like, okay, first you mix the ingredients and then you do this and then you bake it and then you do this.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
Each of those is really important to the final result.
Right.
It's kind of like these attribution graphs allow us to see those important steps that the AI is taking.
That's exactly right. I mean,
Yeah.
let's say, for example, you ask the model, why is the sky blue?
Right.
The attribution graph would actually show all the little steps.
Yeah.
Like the AI recognizing the words why, sky, blue.
Right. Yeah.
Connecting sky with color.
Yeah.
Accessing its knowledge about light scattering.
Right.
And then actually constructing the explanation
Wow.
about, blue wavelengths being scattered more.
Well, it's like we can actually see the AI pulling together its knowledge and actually applying logic
Right.
to actually form an answer.
That's exactly right.
It's kind of like, I don't know, it's like getting this behind the scenes look at how the sausage is made.
Yeah.
The source even talks about how, Claude 3.5 Haiku wrote a poem.
Yeah.
And apparently it wasn't just like throwing words together randomly.
Right.
It was actually following the structured sequence.
Yeah, like a human poet would.
right? It was like, okay, first I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do this.
Carefully choosing each word for its rhythm and its meaning.
Right. So it's really cool to see that, I don't know, it's like even in these tasks that seem really creative, there's this organization going on.
Right, yeah.
And these attribution graphs are actually letting us see that.
Absolutely, yeah. The researchers are seeing these organized pathways.
Wow.
Another example that the source gives is multilingual translation.
Okay.
So first, the model identifies the language.
Right.
Then it understands the grammatical rules of both the source and the target language.
Yeah.
It retrieves the right vocabulary.
Right.
And then it kind of constructs the translated sentence in this really methodical way.
Wow. Which is amazing, like when you think about how much data these things are trained on.
It's crazy.
Tons and tons of text and code.
Right.
And yet they seem to just naturally develop these ways of processing information that are structured, which our source compares to how our brains create patterns to learn.
That's exactly right, yeah.
So it's like we're really starting to understand how these LLMs think.
Right.
Which is so interesting. But like, what's the point of all this? Like, why should we care?
Well, because understanding this more, I guess you could say, biological way of thinking in AI actually can lead to some huge advantages.
Okay, so let's talk about that. What are these advantages?
Okay, well, the first one that I think is just so important is that it can lead to increased trust.
Yeah.
So like, our source talks about AI assisting with medical diagnoses.
Right.
Like if doctors can actually see the steps that the AI is taking, the reasoning behind a diagnosis, they're going to be way more likely to trust those recommendations.
Yeah, it's not just like, oh, the computer says this,
And
so
again,
we should do it.
It's not a matter of blind faith anymore. It's a matter of understanding.
Right, right.
Okay.
So that makes sense.
Yeah. And then that leads to the second benefit, which is we can make AI safer.
Okay. How so?
So if we can visualize the AI's thinking process with these attribution graphs, then we can also see, like, are there errors it keeps making?
Yeah.
Are there flaws in its logic?
Right, right.
And once you see those, then you can correct them.
Right, right.
It's kind of like our source compares it to when someone's learning math and they keep making the same mistake.
Yeah, you can figure out where they're going wrong.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Once you see where that point of confusion is, then you can help them learn more effectively.
I see. Okay.
And then the third benefit is, it just leads to greater transparency.
Yeah.
As these models are becoming more and more integrated into things like healthcare and law and education, having this understanding of how they make decisions is huge.
Right.
It's like they're not just this mysterious thing anymore.
Right.
We actually understand, like, okay, this is what they're good at. This is where their limitations are.
Right. It's not just about satisfying our curiosity.
Right.
It's about laying the groundwork for, I don't know, more reliable, safer AI systems in the future.
Right.
So it's really exciting that we're, by drawing this analogy to these biological systems, using these attribution graphs, we're really starting to see those hidden processes inside AI.
Absolutely. And I think as these technologies keep developing so rapidly, this understanding is going to be more and more important.
Yeah.
Because hopefully the models of the future will not only be more capable, but they'll also be more transparent, more dependable.
Right. Yeah.
And that will lead to like a better relationship between humans and AI.
Right. More trusting relationship.
Exactly.
So just to recap for everyone listening, the big idea here is that LLMs, they actually function in this really structured way, much like biological organisms, with different parts working together.
Absolutely.
And these attribution graphs, those are our microscopes.
Yes.
Letting us actually see the AI's thought processes. And this offers so many benefits for you listening. It's amazing.
Right.
It helps build trust in AI, especially in these critical areas like medical diagnosis.
Sure.
It allows us to pinpoint and correct errors so we can make AI safer. And it just makes these powerful technologies more transparent, which is so important.
Right.
It's really incredible to think that we're starting to see these organized steps that LLMs take. And I think it leads to some really interesting questions.
Yeah, like how can we collaborate better with AI?
Right.
Knowing what we know now.
Yeah. How can we ensure that these powerful tools are actually serving us in a way that is clear and understandable?
Right.
It really makes you think about how this understanding is going to shape how we interact with AI in the future.
Absolutely.
It's an exciting time.
Yeah.
And I think this is just the beginning.
It really is.
So thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, it was fun.
See you next time.
Okay, bye.